I'm Andrew Phillips and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to properly clean acrylic. Let's go ahead and get started. Now what we're talking about is acrylic, which is also known as like plexiglass. It's that kind of that plastic material. A lot of times you'll find it on old arcade games, casino games, even on vehicles you'll find that sometimes. And there's a certain way you want to clean that so that way you do it properly and you don't damage the integrity of it. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So what I have here, I have some classic arcade games that I do work on, also some casino games. If you want to see some videos about them as far as repair, restoration, you can check those out on my channel. I have a lot of those listed that I've done over the last few years. But what we're going to be doing on this video is actually cleaning a couple of those and showing you how to do it properly. But also on vehicles, sometimes like if you have like your tail lights, marking light areas, things like that, you may have acrylic plastics on that as well. Same thing would apply with that because you don't want to be doing anything that can cause damage to those. So for the sake of this video, as I just said, we're going to be focusing on some of these arcade games and I'll show you how we're going to clean those down. And this method also works if you're dealing with, like here on this game here, you can see where it kind of has this bubbled out piece. As long as it's acrylic, whether it's that, whether it be colored acrylic, display screens, any kind of acrylic or plexiglass, you can use this method on. It's important to note that you never want to use your standard household cleaners like Windex, Fantastic, 409, things like that. They have chemicals in them with ammonia and other things that can actually cause damage to the acrylic. In time, it can make it cloudy, or it can also cause it to break down, and eventually you'll start to get little cracks, and it'll pretty much just destroy the integrity of that material. So it's important not to use that. If you are going to be using a polish or things like that on acrylic, you want to get ones that are made specific for acrylic. I'm not getting into those types of products in this video. The purpose of this video is not to show how to polish or to fix scratches, things like that. I'm not pushing any specific brands of cleaners or polishes for acrylic, but strictly just showing you the proper way to clean it as opposed to using a Windex or any kind of cleaner that normally you would use on glass products and things like that. Another thing that I want to talk about is not only cleaning acrylic, but also disinfecting it. In these times that we're living in, you've got a lot of these barriers, these clear acrylic shields that you'll see in stores and restaurants, things like that. And one of the questions that always comes up is, well, how do you disinfect it? Because you can't just use alcohol, even though some people do, but alcohol actually breaks down acrylic and it'll start to crack it after some time. So what you want to do is you want to be able to disinfect it, but you want something that's going to be safe for the acrylic. They do make acrylic safe disinfectants that you can use, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to mention one that I particularly like to use, and that's pharmacy grade hydrogen peroxide. You can just put it in a spray bottle, and whether any of the polymer type products, whether it's acrylic, PETG, polycarbonate, things like that, this is good for that. It's not as strong and not as harsh as some of the other disinfectants, but it is effective. So what I would recommend is just get it, spray it on the surface, allow it to sit for a few minutes to kind of do its thing, killing the germs. Then once it's done, take a warm, wet, non-abrasive cloth and just wipe it down real good and then dry it, and that should take care of the issues of any germs and stuff that's on there. So hopefully that kind of gives you some direction. Like I said, there are some products out there that are specific disinfectants for acrylic, but for the sake of this video, what I recommend is hydrogen peroxide, undiluted. This method of disinfecting is also really good if you're dealing with like gaming or things like that where multiple people are handling, consoles or games. In the case here, we have this video poker machine where you do have these acrylic push buttons right here. This screen right here is acrylic, even though the marquee and bezel are glass, so that's a different thing. So what I would recommend is that take a little bit of the hydrogen peroxide, spray it on to a nice non-abrasive cloth, and then you can then wipe down the surface and the buttons. You don't want to saturate it to where it's getting in and getting into the electronics or anything, but wipe it down with that, allow it to sit a little bit, and then come back with the warm cloth with some warm water on it, and then dry everything off, because that will then kill any germs, and it'll still be safe, especially if you're dealing with like vintage games. You don't want to be damaging anything, but that at least enables you to be able to keep things clean and disinfected without causing any damage. So what we're going to be using is pretty much just a clean microfiber cloth. You don't want a cloth that's abrasive, that can cause any surface scratches to the acrylic. So I'm going to use just a clean microfiber cloth. We're going to run it under just some warm water, and with that we're just going to wipe down the acrylic, get any dirt, dust off with that, and then we'll come back with another microfiber cloth and dry it real good, and that'll give it a nice clean finish without causing any damage to the acrylic itself or causing it to become cloudy or scratching, anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and wet this with some warm water, and then we're going to go ahead and wipe it down and dry it, and we'll take a look at it. We're not going to have it dripping wet, but we're just going to go ahead and dampen it with warm water. And then we'll go ahead and just squeeze it out so it's just lightly dampened, and then we'll head over and start cleaning. You can see on the surface here of this screen, see that, the dirt and dust. So what we'll do now is we'll take this microfiber and we're going to go ahead and wipe it down, and then we'll be back to take a look at it and then dry it off. Start here at the top and just gently wipe it. Since we're using the microfiber, there's nothing abrasive that can cause little surface scratches. And since we're just using just warm water, there's no chemicals that can also cause clouding or in time crack the acrylic. So now that this is wiped nice and clean, we're going to get a dry microfiber and dry it off real good. Everything has been completely wiped down. You want to make sure you dry it all off because you don't want to leave any little bit of water drops. Just like if you're washing your car, if you leave any little bit of water on there, you get those dried up droplets. But you can see here, and I'll get a close up. Looking at it close, you can see how shiny and clear it is. Up there, that's actually a little chip, so just ignore that. But you can see how clear that is compared to when we started. Nice and shiny. Beautiful finish, completely clean, clear. And even if there's any kind of like dirt, besides dust, you don't need to use a cleaner. If you use warm water and just kind of work it out, you can. Now, of course, if you have like some surface scratches or maybe some other kind of debris or grease or whatever, then you will have to use some kind of a cleaner, but make sure it's for acrylic. Okay, you can see how that turned out. It turned out excellent. So I'm sure there's going to be people out there commenting, saying they disagree, this is wrong, all this stuff. I got this actually from a guy who I know from a company that we deal with who makes the displays for the Smithsonian and other museums, high-grade acrylic and plexiglass displays. This is how they do all of their cleaning. They just do warm water because that will preserve the clarity and the longevity of the acrylic and not cause any issues. So this wraps up this video on just a brief video on how to clean acrylic properly and not use any kind of household cleaners or anything with ammonia that can cause damage to it. As mentioned already in this video, if you are dealing with something more, some other kind of dirt or debris on there like oil or grease that requires a cleaner, make sure that it's a cleaner made specifically for acrylic. That way it won't cause any issues. Please send me any questions, any comments. I hope that this video was informative and helpful for you. As always, I appreciate all the support. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.